So Carla's not coming?
I think we're gonna be missing Carla and
Leah.
yeah. So I think we're down to just the folks that are here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you? Good to see you. Is it that specifically?
I'd like to call to order the Lake Worth Beach Community Redevelopment Agency regular scheduled meeting Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. The time is 6 p.m. Emily, roll call, please.
Miss Ann Fairfax.
Here.
Miss Donna Kerner.
Here.
Mr. Daniel Morgan.
Here.
Miss Caroline Shamshubasha.
Here.
Mr. Brendan Lynch.
Here.
Miss Carla Bloxton and Miss Leah Birch are not present.
Thank you. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or reordering requests of the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anybody? Hey, Commissioner.
Commissioner Maliga, I just want to point out on here, it says Tuesday, January 24th at 6 p.m. is the City Commission meeting. It's at 5.
Thank
For
you.
on the bottom for Executive Director's Report. They've been moving it back and forth, but it is at 5 o'clock.
So we landed at 5 o'clock. Thank you. Okay. Any other? Yes, sir. Please. Yep. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Sims. I live at 715 North L Street. A couple weekends ago, I walked around the properties, the K, L, and M Street properties, and we saw a number of invasive, non-native plants on the properties, on the historic properties, on South K, South L, South M, and First Avenue South. These species are categorized by the Florida Invasive Species Council as Category 1 invasives, the most harmful to native Florida habitat. Also, we're Category 2 non-native species. The most widespread of invasive species on these properties is the Category 2 invasive known as Sansevieria or iguana tail. The largest infestation is located in the vacant lot at 30 South K, along with its shared property line with 24 South K. And under a sea grape near First Avenue South. There's also large infestations located in the surface parking lot landscaping at 13 South M and 20 South L Street, and spread into the neighboring lots at 17 South M and 24 South L. Category 1 invasive species are spread throughout these properties. They include the laurel fig, which is growing in the red tip cocoa plum hedge on 20 South L in the parking lot. Another Category 1 invasive is the flea tree, or also known as the Albizia lebec. This is located in the vacant lot at 23 South M. Also, there's a Category 1 invasive present called Bishop Wood, and another one, umbrella tree and Brazilian pepper. The appearance of these invasives is concerning to us, and we would like steps taken to ensure that these invasive plants are eradicated from our downtown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on to
Wait.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Chair Lynch. My name is Richard Stowe. I reside at 414 North Federal Highway. And I am reading a letter on behalf of Edmund LeBlanc, and it goes as follows. I don't support the demolition of the 7 historic structures on South K Street, South L Street, Lake Avenue, and First Avenue South. To my knowledge, there is no proposed, vetted, or approved plan at this time for any new development at the above properties. Demolition before a publicly supported plan is achieved amounts to speculative demolition and should always be discouraged. The city of Lake Worth Beach will set a bad example by demolishing historic structures in historic districts, while other property owners are expected to prioritize historic preservation over purely economic considerations. The cost of revitalizing these structures, while significant, is not prohibitive. Citizens of Lake Worth Beach want a proposal for this area which is in harmony with the scale and historic character of our downtown. Selectively incorporating the existing structures into a new development could provide inspiration for an authentic and contextually appropriate solution and enhance our downtown. That is the statement of Edmund LeBlanc, a resident at 105 South K. He unfortunately, he works at an architectural firm and was, unavailable. He works late into the evening, so he's unavailable to make this presentation in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On to the presentation agenda. If I could ask Mr. Drew Bartlett to come forward and receive our gratitude for your time on the board. I'm not sure.
3 years? It was about
3
3 years, right?
3.
Felt like 4 or 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't given a script, but I will say that I enjoyed the time that we worked together on this board and serving the Lake Worth Beach CRA. And I hope that you will consider putting in your name for future positions or other city volunteer boards.
Would I have to give the plaque back?
You get another one.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, it is, everyone on this board is doing such a great service for the community here at Lake Worth Beach. I can't say enough about the staff at the CRA. We went through a pandemic, all kinds of turmoil, a lot of public debate and everything, and they were so steadfast. They really gave back to this community, just without hesitation. It was time after time, an incredible, nimble organization that can actually do great things for the city in real time. And so it's a great honor to have served and to have been part of this incredible organization. And now I can talk to all of you about CRA business, and so I look forward to that very much. So anyway, thank you so much for this, and have a great meeting.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Drew. On to presentation agenda item B, affordable housing presentation. Is that you or Chris?
It's me.
Both teams?
I think I have the wrong agenda. Why does it have that on?
There was another one sent out, I think.
Oh, I missed it. Thanks.
Okay, I apologize for the small text in here. I will say that I did print out ones for everybody, and they're being handed out right now. The majority of this was passed out to the board in December, so there's a lot of it that I won't get into too much detail in. Just a quick overview of the NSP2 authorization that was done in 2010. The program was a total of $23.2 million. That came specifically to the CRA and our consortium members. We had 2 years to spend half of that money and 3 years to spend all of it, and luckily we were able to do that because of the city and because of the other nonprofit partners we had. We had a total of 19 consortium members. A lot of these people we're still working with, including Adopt a Family, Community Land Trust, Habitat for Humanity, and we also had private sector partners as well. Reporting and monitoring, key consideration for moving forward with any kind of project. I brought one of my 3 policies and procedure books just to show you how big they are. We had to put these all together, get them approved by HUD, and obviously they follow all the same things that the county does, because most of the money for affordable housing does come from the federal government, whether it goes through the county or it comes directly to us as this one does. And we report quarterly online in a system called DRGR. We also report, I think, twice a year on the NEPA, which is environmental reporting, and then there's a couple other ones that we do maybe about once a year. So summary of eligible uses for the NSP2 program was financing mechanism. That means either developer subsidy or buyer subsidy, acquisition and rehab. We could only do foreclosed or short sale properties. We could not do any that were just for sale. We were able to do land banking, demolition, and redevelopment. And these are just a few of the really bad befores and the really great afters that we had. I apologize, I know this is really hard to see, but what I really wanted to point out was back in 2010, going all the way through probably about 2015, we were able to buy properties for as low as $11,000. Sometimes we would get them for free. The average property was probably about $30,000 or $40,000. That does not exist anymore. Even vacant properties right now are going for well over $100,000. But you can see the sales price to the homeowner, if you just take the second one there, South F Street, we purchased it for $11,900. The sale to the home buyer was only $86,000. But when you look at the total development cost, it was $133,935. But the market value today is $214. So you can see, even though these are affordable homes, they were bought for a lot less than you could today. They were fixed up for a lot less than you can today, and they were sold for a lower amount than what it probably cost to build it. The values are still, they still have a very positive effect on the neighborhood. So this is just kind of a breakdown of the last slide, just to show you this particular property and kind of show you how it takes time to go through all of these different steps because we have all of these policies and procedures to go by. We purchased this particular property on D Street in 2013. We had to demolish it about a year later when we learned that there was significant lead and asbestos in it. We then conveyed it to Habitat in September 2014, and it was sold to the home buyer for $156,000. And that's what you will see on Papa, $156,000. However, the home buyer actually pays a mortgage that's $108,000. So there's a soft, silent second on it that was paid for by NSP2 for $48,000. And the home buyer also received $2,000 in down payment assistance. And this particular person, because they went through Habitat, have a zero interest mortgage for 30 years. So between the buyer subsidy and the home subsidy, there was an extra $280,000 that went to this property. I think we haven't updated this slide in a really long time, but last time we checked, there was a collection of over $2.8 million in fees to the city. We're actually going through magistrate, I believe, hopefully sometime this month or next month for the few last properties that we bought. But I wanted to draw everybody's attention to the bottom part there, which was a quote from the Palm Beach County Housing Action Plan, where it specifically says, providing housing for a mix of incomes can help retain and attract workers from various backgrounds and skills. So it's affordable housing isn't just great for the person who lives in it, it's also great for the community. Internal monitoring, back to the big black books. There is a lot of monitoring that is due, again, to the fact that this is federal money, whether it comes through the county, and you have to do extra monitoring for that. All consortium partners are monitored on a regular basis, and consortium partners must also monitor their beneficiaries. This is important because whether you have Habitat for Humanity, the CLT, or Adopt a Family, they have to monitor all the people that they are serving. So that's why you would want to deal with a consortium partner or make somebody a consortium partner, because they have to have somebody on staff or somebody who they contract with who does income qualifications. If you're renting, each time you rent a unit, you have to do an income qualification. And then you also have to report to us on a quarterly basis. So it's really important to work with either housing agencies or people who know a lot about housing, who understand how complex the compliance is with the record keeping and all of the different grant requirements. And we are inspected every single year by the Inspector General. We've never had any findings, knock on wood. This I just wanted to show you how quickly incomes not necessarily are going up in the county, but how they are in as far as Palm Beach County is concerned. So back in 2012, if you had a household of 2, we could serve people making up to $69,480. That number today has grown all the way to $88,320. So in today's market, if you have a family of 4, 2 income people, or perhaps 1, and then 2 children, you can earn up to $110,000 and still be considered for a program such as this. But there are a lot of requirements, right? So you have to be able to apply for a mortgage if you're buying. You must be a U.S. citizen. You must have steady, verifiable income, so you can't make too little and you can't make too much. You have to have a decent credit score, and all these things are things that the partners that we have are in charge of, whether they be renting to individuals or they're selling to individuals. So our internal requirements that HUD oversaw and blessed was we were going to give preference to, and we continue to do, households making less than 50% of AMI. The federal rule was out of the $23 million, 25% of that money had to go to households making 50% or less. We actually exceeded that expectation and were able to provide housing for people for 37, God, I can't talk. We were able to provide 38% of the grant went towards people making 50% or less than AMI. We also give extra points to people who already live or work in Lake Worth Beach. City workers, veterans, first responders, and educators also got an extra point. And if you were able to go into the individual development account program, which was offered by a couple different of our partners, you got extra points because you had money to put down on the house. Other qualifications, these are just the federal ones. The head of household must legally reside in the U.S. And there's just some other small ones about, maximum of 2 people per bedroom and so forth. This is just an example. I pulled all of this out of the Housing for County Action Plan just to give you an idea of the different people that we're serving. I'm sure all of us know, people working downtown, people working in government, and even all the way up to some general management and senior people make less than 140% of AMI here in Palm Beach County. The deed restrictions, they started at 15 years and they went all the way up to 30 years. We have permanent affordable housing covenants for the Community Land Trust. All of those stay affordable for perpetuity. Again, ongoing monitoring of sales and purchasers. And again, the rental projects need ongoing monitoring to the lead agency. And we collect information not just on people's incomes, but their demographics as well. And all that stuff goes into the federal reporting, like I said, that we do every quarter. Home buyers subsidy, you can see from this that there was, not only was there a development subsidy and there was a closing cost subsidy, second mortgages, but there were a lot of ones that were written down significantly for people to afford. And I'm just gonna pick one on South C. It's about halfway down the chart there. The sale to the home buyer was $145,000. This was back in 2015. The developer subsidy was $24,000. They also received a soft second mortgage for $37,000, and their monthly annual P&I is $300. And this happened to be a Habitat for Humanity owner, so there is no interest. This is just another drill down of that, just to show you a better example. Again, 35% of the grant and PI that we generated had to be used for households making 50% or less. This was a house on D Street. The total cost to rehab it was $163. It sold for $142. That's what you'll see on Papa. But the first mortgage, which is a 0% interest 30-year mortgage, is actually for $84,000. And the 58 soft second doesn't have to be paid unless the home is sold. I'm not going to go through these. You can read through these whenever you want. Talking a little about property acquisitions since 2018. We have actively, as you know, go and constantly look for properties, whether or not they're really for sale or not. This particular one I show on the right, I think was for sale at one point, but there was no way we were going to be able to afford it. So in the last few years, we've actually looked and inquired about 129 properties. That's not including the latest ones. Out of those, we put offers on 47 of them. We closed on 27 of those. Of the 129, they were commercial multifamily is 59 properties, and single family were 40, vacant land 30. So, you know, it's a lot of work that goes into it. We certainly strive to do more multifamily than we have in probably the last 6 months to a year, but the prices for those are going up significantly. I just threw this in just to show you that there are other projects going in that probably are not necessarily affordable. They might have an affordable component to it, but these places are needed because people, hopefully, who are moving out of those other affordable homes now have a place to live if they're looking for that kind of middle income rental. And these properties include, there's 6 of them, the Mid, the Bohemian, which has affordable units in it, Deco Green, yet to be built, Laura, also yet to be built, the One, and the Perch, which is also yet to be built. But if you total up all of these, the number of housing units is 595. These projects are underway, and CRA is involved in these. We have community land trust homes. We have 4 lots right now, which are going to for sale units, and these are on F and E. There's only one that has been finished to date. Later on in January, the CLT and I are going to the county to ask for funding for the other 3. Habitat for Humanity, they also have 4 lots. They're doing for sale units on C Street. We also have Village Flats, which will be along Lake and Lucerne's Avenue. I believe in December they received approval from Planning and Zoning, and those 2, they might be old renderings on the lower right side of Village Flats. There's a total of 24 rental units going up, and I believe 11 to 12 of those have to be affordable for 20 years. This is just a little bit more about the Land Trust Partnership, because you'll see some numbers later about leverage. So we were able to buy 4 lots. Actually, one of them was free, so that certainly helped. For $250,000. The CLT is bringing in $1.1 million, most of it from the county. So the average price for these homes, although they cost obviously significantly more, will be $166,000, and these will be affordable for those making 80% or less of AMI. Habitat for Humanity, another 4 homes, single-family homes being built, for sale homes. Our CRA contribution, we bought 2 properties. One was rather large, and I believe they're going to do 3 single-family homes on it, and then there's another one on E. Our contribution to it was $285,000. Habitat leverage, $1.3 million. Again, 30% zero-interest mortgage, and they specifically look for families making between 30% and 80% of area median income. There are other opportunities, though. So we've talked about it with a partner that we just put on board, the consultant from Florida Housing Coalition, about possibly doing some buy-downs of units of bigger properties. The one on the top left is Lake Worth Station. I believe it's going for approval before the commission sometime later this month. There's a total of 81 units. Of those, 39 will be workforce. So they already have money from the county, but we will actually be talking to them hopefully rather soon about potentially doing affordable units and allowing us to buy down some of those. And that's over by the railroad tracks and 10th Avenue. 30 South K will probably be talking about later also this month. It's part of the downtown assemblage, although this lot on K and First was bought for the CRA at the time for affordable housing. We could do up to 9 units there if it's something that the board would like to move forward on. And finally, in the bottom, there is the very initial rendering for 821 South Dixie. We talked about partnering with them for a low-income housing tax project for people over 55. They were not able to get their application in December. There was a little problem with the lease that's currently on the property, but they will be going after the housing tax credit maybe later this year. And those will all be for people making less than 120% of AMI, with the majority making 80% or less of AMI. We're also working on 2 other multifamilies. We're kind of not very far into it yet. The properties are quite expensive, especially ones that have more than 5 units, but we are working with 2 of our partners and trying to do more multifamily. I know you're never going to be able to see all of this, so that's why I printed them out and put them on your desk. These are just maps with different dots on them showing you not the number of units, but the number of properties that we've built over the last few years, specifically on the west side. So this would be Royal Point, Sienna, Tropical Ridge neighborhood. Total properties bought west of Dixie to date is 107. We've developed 88 of those. We have 4 pending that we haven't assigned yet to development partners. Of those, we have 72 single families, 16 multifamily properties, number of units total 188. And with the purchase properties that we have right now, we're estimating approximately 31 total units to be built. This is an overall grant of the funds spent by the CRA and the consortium partners since 2010 on affordable housing. As you can see, the NSP2 grant was $23 million. Program income, that income comes from selling the homes and the resale of homes. To date, we've gotten $7.3 million from that. As people continue to sell homes, a lot of those soft seconds are paid back to us, and we can put it back into the pot. Line of credit funding, we had line of credit maybe 5 years ago. We bought a number of properties. We spent 1.2 specifically on affordable housing. TIF funds in the last few years, we put in 1.4 million. And the leverage for the partners, that 7.9 was during the NSP era for a total of 41 million. Speaking of future funding, the grant that we were hoping to get from the federal government was going to be 2.5 million. Instead, we got 750. We don't have it in our hands as of yet, but we were just told by Representative Frankel's office that we should be getting an agreement relatively soon on that. The city has discussed giving us $2 million in ARPA funds if we can find a project that we can all agree on. TIF funds this year specifically was $600,000, and the leverage from the partners, that 2.1, that is just the leverage for the 8 units from the CLT and Habitat for Humanity for a total future funding of $5.4 million. Jumping to this year in affordable housing, again, the 750 that we have in our budget, and I printed out new ones for you, has not yet been received, although we do have it budgeted. We have to change the budget probably next month to reflect the change from 2.5 to 750. TIF funds to date, $600,000 for a total of 1.3. $2 million from the city. It's not actually received yet, but again, we're looking for a larger project that we can partner on. To date, of the $600,000, we spent about, this number's wrong, 422, which leaves us about another $200,000 plus the 750 to yet spend. The future, according to the grant application we put together that we handed into the I keep wanting to call her commissioner, Representative Frankel last year included what we're calling attainable housing, affordable workforce, all included. Our partners for this particular one is, again, Adopt a Family, Habitat, Community Partners, Housing Leadership, Neighborhood Renaissance, and finally the City of Lake Worth. So, moving forward, besides the purchasing of properties and the working with our partners to try to affect as many units as possible. Last Saturday, I believe we had an orientation for the Lake Worth Homebuyer Club. These are being hosted here at the Hatch on weekends. The particular dates are on our Facebook site. If anybody needs them, I would be happy to send it to you. These different seminars focus on things like money management, improving credit, which we find a lot of people need to do. How do you actually qualify for a loan, and what are all the different qualifications and requirements that you need? So it's super important for people to go through this before they go and try to purchase an affordable house, because a lot of this stuff is kind of required for people. So back to our funding for this year, I just reiterated the money that we have or will have or hopefully will have, which is the $750, $2 million from the city, the TIF funds, and let's not forget that we do have some land for redevelopment with a total of a $5 million value. Moving forward, we're still following NSP 2 rules and regulations, but now we're adding the buy down of units from area developers in exchange for them promising long-term affordability. And of course, they would have to be a big enough developer that they can either hire or have a consultant that knows how to do income qualifications, and of course, the quarterly monitoring that we'll require for the next 20 years. We also wanted to look for partners besides the ones that we have for wraparound services. Many of you are familiar with Adopt-A-Family, who do things such as childcare. They also provide money for utilities sometimes for families. So there's other things that are available through our partnerships. We use current CRA staff and the land that you allow us to purchase. So it's not like we have outside staff coming in and helping us with this. We've been doing this now actually for quite a while. So we've gotten quite good at it, I think. Again, providing the credit housing counseling, it's very important to get you ready to be able to buy a house. And we also put in here an attempt to provide more green and electric alternatives and projects or units. One of the multifamily projects that we're working with on the south side are very interested in being as environmentally friendly as possible, and we're talking to them about actually working with the city and putting in some electric car stations in the parking garage that they may need. So moving forward, we're continuing to identify and buy needed properties. It's up to the board whether they want us to continue to look for single family or should we focus on multifamily. That's something I know the board's talked about a little bit. We continue working with partners to leverage our funds. We're going to go probably more than once to the county to try to leverage some of the funds, especially with some of the multifamily projects that we're looking at, because with the funding that we have, we'll barely be able to buy one of those multifamily units. The cost now for anything between about 5 and 10 units could be as high as $2 million. We're trying to identify other sources of funding. As some of you know who've been here quite a while, we're pretty good at applying for grants, and sometimes we're lucky enough to get them. And we're also working with Stephen Beal, our consultant, on what we call the buy down, which is looking at different ways we can maybe do alternatives to banks to lower interest rates. How can we increase the amenities that are in some of these places? Some of them don't have any. Is there some flexibility on building size and density? And, are there some alternatives or alleviation for impact and other fees? And that is it.
All right, Joan, thank you very much for that overview. Commissioner?
I have to keep a rule of neighborhood meeting.
Oh, sure.
I should make a statement or comment.
Yeah, of course.
Briefly, is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, Sarah Malika for the record, unfortunately, this meeting and the residents of Lake Osborne are always on the exact same time, so I try to split my time. I'm not here as a city commissioner, I'm here as a resident who was able to receive a first-time home buyer program through the NSP and the CRA. I bought mine through Adopt-A-Family, not Habitat, and I just want to talk about how great this program is and encourage the board to continue this program and buying and giving people the opportunity to be a homeowner. So you take somebody like me who never thought that they could own a home, been evicted 90% of my life when I was a child, and my parents, there was just never that succession planning, right? So you give somebody an opportunity and you put a roof over their head that's stable, and they take pride in the community and they get involved in the community. And our home, mine and my wife's home, we weren't married at the time, we counted the other day, and we are foster parents, but between the shelter and the safe places that we've been able to give, we've had 17 other people come through our home that we've been able to give a roof over their head when they were down on their luck or in transition or fostering children. And it's not just a house that you're building or buying, you're really changing the demographics and people's lives. So keep that in mind when you guys are making these decisions. It's not just putting tax, rolls out there or spending tax dollars. It's what do you want our community to look like in the future? And I'm only one of, I think, 18 in Royal Point, Sienna now that have come through the NSP2 program in the first round as well. And we take pride in our homes, and we take pride in our community, and we become involved and invested. So just keep that in your mind when you're thinking about this program and buying these properties. And even if we have to sit on them until we get more funding together, you're giving people an opportunity to really have a future and a future for their families. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This was a program that actually, when we were awarded this, wasn't it the highest or the second highest ever for a single applicant?
Second.
Second highest, yeah. And it was pretty incredible. I was actually on the CRA board when we were given this this grant for this program, and it was pretty incredible. You can't overstate the impact to our community of this program, and it was a perfect timing because although I went off the CRA TIF funds tanked, and this program allowed us to still do some really incredible things for our community. Please keep in mind for everybody, we are restricted to working within the CRA district, so this program was concentrated to certain areas. So when board members, when we're looking at this map, there's a reason why there's not little triangles or squares or circles in other places. But this is, Drew Bartlett said that our team is very nimble and small, but we have an incredible impact, our staff. This is a perfect example of that, because what they did with these funds and what they were able to do compliance-wise and to make sure that we stayed within the guidelines and had tremendous success is really just a perfect example of what he was speaking to. Is there any, here? Nice to see you without a cane.
I'm doing my best. I actually had leather shoes on for 3 hours today. It was really exciting for the first time in 3 years. Betty Resch, 207 South L Street. I want to, first of all, thank the CRA for the stuff that you've done over the past few years. It's hard to recognize, it's kind of a hidden organization, so you don't know this is a CRA house. So this kind of, is this going to be posted on your website?
I can.
Really would be helpful, because then I can say, go look at the website and see what they've done. It's $2.5 million that we put aside for the ARPA, from the ARPA funds for affordable housing. Even better.
If
And
we keep
were-
going, we'll get to 3.
And it was very glad to get the $750 from Congresswoman Frankel. Wait, there was one more thing I wanted to say. Oh my goodness, it's been a long day. I met with Virginia Baker the other day from the county administrator, who has, by the way, got a really good relationship with our city manager, Carmen Diaz. Yeah, so, not Davis. It has been a longer day than I thought. Carmen Davis. And they have a good relationship, which is really helpful. I also had the opportunity to meet our new county commissioner, Will, and I assured him that we would be happy to work with him and hope for the best for our little town, because it's going to be a big shift, I think, and we're going to just have to be as cooperative, and I want to get to build a relationship with him. So, I mean, those are where our funds come from. And one thing about Virginia Baker, the bond, that's kind of what we talked about was, we've got this big bond that's coming through, and one of the Lake Worth, as you all know, is we're built out. We don't have that many places to build things, but she understands the need that we have. She understands the community and the demographic that we have, and that she's very willing to talk to us, to meet with us, to get as much of that funding to us as possible, because we are one of the communities that, you know, it's us and Belglade and it's just, but she understands that and she knows that we need it and she really wants to help us with that. So again, I want to thank you. I want to thank staff. You all do a great job. Sometimes criticized, often criticized, sometimes appreciated, but we do appreciate that. And this is exciting and people need to know this because they hear the negative, they don't hear the positive. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Any questions, comments?
You know, unfortunately, I don't know if anybody else went on vacation for a while. I did, but when did the city commit to the 2.5? Did it was like a commitment like that passed the commission by votes for?
We had a meeting and we kind of appropriated different funds to different, yeah, right sure it's 2.5. Peggy can back me up. She knows all this stuff.
That's like set in stone. It's not like still up for discussion or something like that.
Well, I mean, how it works is, should I go back up?
Yeah. It's good exercise.
Just what I need. It's set aside. We have, you know, it's broad brushstrokes. You know, affordable housing, 2.5 million. We only got 19 million, so 2.5 is a big chunk of what we got. I mean, for example, things that have been looked over for the past number of years. When we started talking from staff, when we started hearing from staff, because we defer to them because I don't know what they need. Things like the lights at the northwest ball fields, the tall lights that light the baseball fields, are literally falling to the ground. So they're $650,000 because things have never been done. I mean, we found out that we have to be redistricted we should be doing it every 10 years, and in 100 years we never did it. Who knew? So, you know, things like that pop up, and as we went through the ARPA funds, we would hear, you know, the different departments gave us what do they need. So if we have committed to, you know, I'm pretty sure it's 2.5, and we don't know how that's going to be spent. We're not going to, you know, we pretty much talked about, and you can watch it on YouTube. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to work with the CRA, we want to work with Habitat, Adopt a Family, you know, we have to sort of like suss out how the best way to use that money, it's not that much, right, the most efficiently. So that's, you know, no checks have been written, but the money is sort of earmarked. So that's kind of how.
And do you just happen to know like the date you guys had? What day was that one?
I don't know what day it is today.
Was it December? Was it like it was in December or something like that?
It was the past couple of months. It was recently. Yeah, it was recently. Yeah, I mean, all these things are. Yeah, I mean, just go to the website, look at the date, and the agendas are there.
Definitely.
So that would be. I think it was a separate workshop or special meeting or something. It was, yeah.
Specifically in the ARPA fund.
Exactly.
That's
So yeah.
coming out from the government, and they met to discuss how to disperse the funds and what dollar figures were going to go where.
Oh, I'm glad somebody was paying attention.
I was there, and I believe.
I know you were.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's kind of how it works. I mean, you know, we at first was $19 billion. You know, the first money we spent was to give last Christmas. Every employee in the city got a check for $2,000 as a bonus, because they had just. As I'm into it more and more, and you learn, it's just amazing what you learn over almost 2 years now. You know, our staff through the COVID was horribly understaffed. People were out for weeks and weeks and weeks. Then they'd come back and the next person. So it was really hard, and they kind of stepped up. So we figured the best thing that we could do, and our staff gets criticized. You know, people love to trash them on Facebook and stuff. So what we talked about, and it was a public meeting, that we needed to show some appreciation. We don't pay our people very well. So that was one thing, and so it wasn't a check that we deducted tax from. They got a $2,000 check, and it was at Christmas, and it was really appreciated. So that was fun, you know. But now that's 19 down to 7, you know, down to 16 because of all the other stuff. So it goes fast, and we all have our pet projects. You know, if I had my way, I'd put all the money in that, and Kim would do. You know, we all do different things, but I think we came to a good balance of what the staff needs and kind of what we want. And we always need to look for more grants and stuff. There's always, you know, things we want to do.
Thank you.
Thanks. Last comment that I forgot to mention that, well, we had a great group of partners, consortium, that really helped us figure out the best way and best use of this funds. One of them from Adopt a Family is a former CRA board member, Matt Constantine. I was saying we had a lot of great partners through this process, but one of them, from adoptive family, Matt Constantine, was a former board member with me on the Lake Worth CRA. He is.
Matt Constantine is one of the biggest assets we have in the city.
Absolutely. So it was kind of cool that he was on the board when we got the grant, and then he was able to roll off and help us figure out that whole deal. So.
Good sense to hire my men. Even after here, since you're adopted.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the minutes. Can I please have a motion to approve the item A, December 13, 2022 minutes?
Motion to approve.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Action agenda A, CRA facade grant, 1520 10th Avenue North. Review and determine funding. Chris, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. This is the second facade grant that this board has had a chance to review this year. This is for 1520 10th Avenue North. Last month, the owners, basically it's a commercial condo, the owners joined forces and submitted a facade grant application to us because they are in need of new landscaping and painting of their building at 1520. They have provided the application, which is in your packets, provided estimates, 2 estimates each for both painting and for new landscaping and irrigation. They're estimating this project to cost around $22,000. They're requesting half of that, which is what our grant provides, half the cost up to $35,000. So this would be a little over $11,000 max. Submit the application. The application meets all requirements. And if the board chooses to approve, we would enter into a facade grant agreement with Town Site Office Condominium 1, Inc. For them to make the improvements. They'd have 1 year to make the improvements and then get reimbursed if they meet all objectives of the grant and close out all or any permits. That's pretty much all I have to add. One of the applicants is here to answer any questions if you so choose to have questions. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so we'll look for a motion on this and a second, and then we'll go to discussion and we can speak to the applicant before we will move forward. Is there a motion? Again, this is just to have a motion for discussion.
No, motion for discussion.
Well,
Is that,
if you're, like, the motion would be to either accept the staff recommendation or.
I see. Okay, so I would say then the motion to accept the staff recommendation to
Okay.
provide funding in the amount of $11,079.08 in the commercial facade grant program.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah,
Chairman,
Chris.
the motion would also require us to waive the criteria that this applicant is currently being assessed. I'm not sure if it's fines, but they do have a code case for their landscaping. It would require also to waive our grant requirement criteria that the grant doesn't cover to make improvements to cover code violations. So if they choose to waive that, that'd have to be part of the motion as well.
So should I amend the motion?
So,
as stated?
yeah, if you want to include that as
Yep.
part of your motion?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
the waiver's included as part of the motion?
yes, so in addition to what I said, that we would then also waive the criteria for the applicant to not have an outstanding city code violation.
And
Is that
Commissioner
okay?
Morgan, you agree with that second?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Chris, so we're gonna move to discussion, but just to start off, I'm wondering if maybe I couldn't appeal to the motioner and the seconder to consider amending that motion to maybe eliminate this code violation before we fund this grant? Is that?
The improvements are for their violation is from the city is for landscaping.
So, okay,
These
so they're gonna
improvements would
alleviate that.
However, they'd still be responsible for this, whatever violation they have, until the improvements are made.
Okay, so I guess
Yeah.
that's not possible.
Right.
If that's
So-
what the funds are.
So they're gonna continue getting fines until this is finished, essentially. is what
Correct.
I'm-
So we're discussing it now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, that's okay. If you would please, come forward and state your name and address for the record, and then I'm sure some of the commissioners will have some questions for you.
It's freezing and it's
Hello. My name is Maria Elena Kaplan. I own a business here in Lake Worth. I do alterations in fashion design. I'm a fashion designer. So most of our building are female owners, majority. So we got a violation from the city. They request us to do a complete new, landscape. Obviously, the building was built 30 years ago, and I guess you change also the rules. We have one of the landscaper explained to me, this is invasive. And 30 years ago, you were able to plant them, but not anymore. You switched the requirements. So that's why we have to replace the whole thing. And that's when one of the person that gave the violation gave me the idea, even though I knew you had this program to apply for this. So obviously you're only doing 50% of the project if we reimburse 50% of the project. So we have, I guess, a meeting in February with the person in charge of the violation. So we don't have any fees or anything accumulating at the moment. And if we show good faith of us, pursuing that we're gonna fix all this, it will be already, in the way. And I already informed everybody over there that I'm applying with you, and I gave them all the information, so they are aware of what we're doing.
Okay, great. Is there any questions of the applicant?
Yeah.
I have questions for staff.
Sure.
Oh, question for staff, and
Whenever.
if you'd please stay in case there's other, Chris?
Yes.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about staff's opinion about the code violation recommendation, just because staff wrote that into the grant requirements. So I'm wondering why you feel this property is different. Just kind of like to hear a little bit more.
We've never really had this situation come up, so it's really just out of, again, good faith to help the businesses in this case. But we've never had an applicant admit in writing that there's code violations when they apply for a grant. This is the first one that's happened, so that's why we are asking for this exception.
And if I could just add something?
Yeah, sure.
David Tolsis, CRA Council. What I would recommend is that because this is a reimbursement grant, that what they will need to do is they will need to make all the improvements regarding the landscaping, and then also provide proof to the CRA that the city has found them in compliance with the code requirements. Once they've provided the CRA with proof that they've done what the city's required them to do, then we could provide the funds as on a reimbursement basis. And then afterwards, then a lien would be recorded against the condominium association property in order to ensure that the property is maintained. We typically require that the property not be sold for 2 years, but I think in this instance, because it's owned by a condominium association, that we would just include in the lien language that they would not, they would agree that they would not get any code violations for a 2-year period. Otherwise, if they do, they would have to repay the money back to the CRA. And that I think provides the CRA with some teeth to make sure that the money that you're providing goes to, one, improve the property back to where the city requires it, and then also requires the property owner to continue to maintain it so that it's not just spent and then gone because the landscape dies or goes away, and then the city has to come out and issue another notice of violation.
So just to clarify, we're looking for an amendment to the initial motion with an agreement from the seconder to do all of that, but where I'm hung up is on a lien of that nature. That type of lien exists, and it wouldn't prohibit a traditional transaction or hiring a roofer that sees a lien and doesn't want to do Is that correct?
You mean, would the CRA's lien prohibit anybody else from doing any work on the property?
Right. Would it-
I don't think so. I mean, it's like a second mortgage essentially.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna be there, just like with the affordable housing that you saw, we had those soft seconds. It's just gonna be there, but it's gonna be forgiven and written off essentially after 2 years, once they've complied with everything.
Okay.
So my request would be that you have the motion to approve the grant for $11,079.08 and to waive the criteria that the applicant must not have any outstanding code violations, but also include in there the fact that the funds will not be provided until the CRA receives written documentation that the property is in compliance with city codes, and that the lien will provide for forgivability after 2 years, so long as the property is not cited by the city for any code violations.
1 second. I'm in agreement with all of it except for the lien part. If it hinders or causes any kind of strife in normal business of a condominium, that's where things get a little sketchy for me.
I mean, that's what we've done for years with respect to these types of grants with individual owners.
Yeah, but it's condos that's my world. That's what I do for work, is work with condos, and it's totally different. I just don't know if a lien is gonna, cause every time they go to, either sell a unit or somebody wants to sell or buy in there, they pull that, and somebody needs to do electrical or plumbing work or roof work, that comes up, and.
If they provide us with a subordination document, then we would subordinate whatever
Okay.
interest that is. So it's something that we can deal with, and I
Okay.
think we have dealt with on occasion, where we've had a lien and somebody's come forward with a refinance.
Okay.
And so we've had to subordinate our interest to that new mortgage, or
Okay.
that new lien.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
And it provides the CRA with the security, because these are public dollars that we're providing.
I agree with all that, for sure. I just wanna make sure we're not
Okay.
unintentionally.
But it's at the board's discretion, but I'm not
Yeah.
aware of any grant that the Lake Worth Beach CRA has provided that hasn't included that lien being reported against the property.
This might be the first time we've done it, cause that's where it gets a little trickier with condos.
Okay, I have a question for him.
Yeah.
Is this a grant where I'm applying or a loan? Because you're setting it up like a loan, like a forgivable loan.
Correct.
But it's not a grant then.
It's a grant.
But you're setting it up as a
You don't have
forgivable
to pay
loan.
it back as long as you comply.
I know, and I understand.
It's up to the board. You don't have to argue with it.
No, I'm just saying that I don't agree with the lien in the property, especially for $12,000 that you're giving, you're gonna lien 4 properties.
We've
Now,
done liens for less.
Well, I understand.
2,000, 3,000. It's public money that,
I
from my
un-
perspective, from a legal
Withdraw her
perspective, we
Yeah.
have to protect. That's all I'll
application,
say.
or-
It's up to the board. Thank you.
Okay.
Can we ask her if she still wants us to consider? Do you still want us to consider the grant?
I think it's abusive, to be honest.
But-
As a small business owner, I'm a small and I'm in a disadvantage. So I'm planning in my future to grow. I want to make it like a different area of my business, and I was thinking about using the equity of my property. All right? So if you put a lien, I can't do it. So you freeze my assets. You freeze the biggest assets to a small company for 2 years.
The lien is on the condominium association property.
And what,
But still, it'd be all of us.
And
Do
you
have-
don't have to pay it back. If you comply with the city's code requirements, it's gone.
The lien goes away. As soon as you go, I'm sorry.
Well, but no, if you comply for 2 years,
Yeah,
it's
but
gone.
those 2 years I cannot do
You can't
what.
guarantee that you'll comply with city codes for a 2-year
No,
period?
I will comply with everything.
Okay.
The thing is, I think it's abusive from the city to put a lien, to be honest,
It's-
especially if you call it a grant. It's not a grant, it's a forgivable loan, what you're offering me, you know? You're not giving me a grant, you're giving me a forgivable loan.
it's all free money.
Oh, I understand, but I'm
In my
thinking about
eyes.
my future and the way I wanna do my business, and I think this lien will be detrimental for me. You
So
know?
I'm sure there's others that wanna comment, but the way I see this is
Mhm.
we are already going outside of our guidelines.
Yeah, I
by
know, I
waiving
understand that,
a
but
zone
full
violation.
disclosure, I would like to ask how many people applied for this type of, before, this year, the type of grant you're offering.
No idea.
We don't know.
This fiscal.
We approve all grants coming forward. This is our second grant this fiscal year.
This fiscal year starts where?
October 1st.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Just to clarify. Let's see, so it's called a grant, but it actually kind of puts a kind of a lien on the property for 2 years. Now, what's so magical about the 2 years?
Oh, because they require you to keep your property for 2 years. So they, in a way, the city does not believe that you will keep the property, does not think that you will comply with that.
No, you would comply for, it's
I've
sort of
been
like
in-
it's a get-out-of-jail-free card for 2 years.
I've
So for
been
2 years,
already-
after 3 years, you could, you know.
Yeah, I've been
The
already.
key thing about the 2-year period is typically we provide these, and it allows the city, the CRA, to ensure that if the property is improved, and the property owner then decides to sell the property in light of the fact that they've gotten this improvement, in essence, increase in property values, that the CRA would get their money back during that 2-year period.
Which has happened in both housing and in business.
So you have to pay it back if you sell it within,
Within the 2-year period, right?
yeah.
But in this instance, because the lien is going to be against the condominium association property that isn't going to be sold,
Right.
you know, it's just common area,
Mhm.
that in this instance, from my perspective, I think, and in light of the current condition of the property, that repayment obligation would only come into play if they end up with the property falling out of compliance with the city code provision, which is where we
Yeah,
are
and
today.
then having a lien on your property, as you say, I understand completely how it messes up your
I don't know
ability
if it's,
to do.
it's legally because you're doing the condominium, so legally, I'm not the, each one have a different, we have different deeds. So I belong to the condominium association, but my deed has my business in it, name, so I don't know whether that will reach to that. If when I go apply for any loan for my business later on to grow it, to make it bigger, I don't know.
And if that happens and the lender sees that there's a lien on the property, they call up the CRA and they say, we're giving a loan, would you agree to subordinate? And we'll prepare a subordination document for them to record a closing. So it's nothing that we haven't done before.
So how does that sound to you?
Yeah.
So you could, there's a workaround. It's not like, you know, it just gets cut off. They'll work with you to take care of, you know, any kind of application you're doing.
Okay. I have to talk with the rest of the people that were group applying.
So you
Okay.
want to not, you want to withdraw your application?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna keep you
I
know.
understand.
Can we
So
defer
in
if she
this-
wants to
I
talk to?
think what she's saying is that she needs to go back and talk to the other members of the association.
To see.
But, I mean, the CRA, if you want to approve it tonight, you can.
Okay.
And it's gonna be up to the association then ultimately come forward and submit the paperwork and enter that agreement
Yeah,
with the CRA.
especially since she has violations, so
Right.
they're accumulating
Right,
and,
it's up to
you know,
them
it's kind of
to-
time is of the
Right.
essence, so.
Right.
I would consider tabling it because, you know, this is, you know, I would say, my opinion is to withdraw the motion in the second and somebody move tabling this with a second and we can move on until we get clarification on, because I understand that you're not able to commit for 3 other owners. It's not saying we're not gonna do it, it's just saying let's wait until next month and then we can.
Oh, okay, but then I have to wait another month because I'm already thinking about doing the work for February. We collected, we did our meeting, we collected the funds, and then we need to get that thing going, you know?
I mean, you can approve it, you know, as you've discussed, and then it's gonna be up to, you know.
Yeah, they
that
still have
to
to
come
follow
forward.
we
through,
know-
so I think
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
approve it, but it's, you know, if they don't follow through, then
Right.
it dies.
Mhm.
So I would suggest to the board that we approve it, just from a administrative aspect, doesn't have to come back, we've already discussed it, and we understand you have concerns about it, and you have the option of taking it up or
Mhm.
not,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question. So the applicant mentioned that she was cited because it didn't meet the new codes. I kind of have some questions about that, because to me it sounds like if it was approved in the past, it should have been legally non-conforming. But I don't know, I'm just curious.
Yeah, is it grandfathered?
I mean,
Yeah,
it's a city, that's a city issue, you know, if she can convince the city to withdraw the lien.
No, there's
then, you
also,
know.
some portions that we wanna cover, they are required to cover the ground. If
I
I
just-
listen, you changed the law so much that if I wanna do the sign that I have.
But
it
that's
was-
not really how it works, because
Mhm.
things can be grandfathered in typically.
Oh, yeah, but if I wanna fix, let's explain, I'll explain it to you. If I have a sign in the building that was done 30 years ago. If I wanna fix it, my sign does not comply with the city anymore. Completely out of, like, I can't even fix that thing, because I have to move it away from the sidewalk. You have new requirements. So
I have a question
I'm in
for
the limbo on
staff.
that one.
So I have a concern with approving a landscape plan that doesn't meet the spirit of the town code or the city's code. And
No,
I
no,
don't,
no, no,
I
I'm
d-
wor- I'm
Can I
sorry.
please finish my question?
Sorry.
Thank you. I don't know if this plan meets it. It's kind of an informal plan. For instance, just looking at it, there's a hedge in the visibility triangle. So if someone's pulling out on 10th Avenue, they're gonna have a visibility issue based on how this plan is drawn. And I personally have an issue approving a plan in front of me. I know we're not truly approving the plan, but it's drawn this way and we're approving the funding for it. So I don't know if there's some way,
Has
I don't know
landscape plan been approved by the city?
what the mechanism
I
is for
sent
that.
I have been working with the horticulturist, in the city.
For the what?
The person that is in charge of that.
horticulturalist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I email all the information to him, I gave him all the bits, and I email everything, and he gave me back all his feedback.
Okay.
So we're working back and forth now. Now we're in the middle of getting the permits and also all the planning, and he asked us for amount of plants, because you have
Yeah.
all these new plants that you wanna use, so I'm 100% invested in this is gonna be just like you want it to be.
Okay.
That was actually, excuse me, that I had a question really like along the same lines, you know.
Mhm.
So this has been reviewed by Dave McGrew, the
Yes,
city
I've been
arborist?
working with him, yeah.
Okay.
He came to our property, he explained us what he wanted, and then I emailed him both of the beats, and I emailed him that, he gave me all kinds of points that I have to fill in, and we got everything to the landscape company, so they have to put the amount of plants, what plants, where are they going, and I asked for 2 plants, he said they were too tall, so we're gonna bring them and put something different and all that. So this is not like I'm coming out with this without talking with the city. I know I know my way around bureaucracy.
May I ask, how long have you been in code violation?
Just recently, October,
Oh, I said, how long have you been in code violation?
October maybe, or November.
The trees that are facing 10th Avenue, in the rendering that you submitted, it shows like hedges there now, or like what you would like to put in, or what the condominium.
No, that's the hedges, and the problem is if I draw the trees, it will cover the whole, so I just did the lines,
You
the
did
black
the
line.
rendering?
Huh?
You did the rendering?
Yes.
So the trees will still be there.
These trees will be there, we're not removing any trees, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a degree in art, by the way, so, sorry.
Just another question.
Sure.
Elena, could you tell us, like, because I'm looking
There's
at
trees
this,
here.
the lump sum
These are
of the
trees.
labor,
Yeah.
the dump fees, the delivery, removal
That's
of current
for
landscape. Do you have like the breakdown of what's actually gonna be removed in terms of landscape?
They will remove all the existing,
Like
Hedge.
the
hedges,
perimeter?
yeah, all that, and we have to replace all of that, all the hedges, and then whatever left grass we have, and there's no trees being removed,
Mm-hmm.
not the large. We have really large trees. There's no trees removed. We just, removing all the border, the hedge around.
So the hedges in the front of.
And the
those
side,
Exora?
10th Avenue and B Street and the
Mhm.
other side, yep.
Okay, any other discussion? Has to go to public? Public comment?
Can I just add one more comment,
Sure.
if you don't mind? And I don't wanna sound mean-spirited, I hate when people say that too. But like the justification statement, I understand what you're saying. And I understand about the lien, and I understand that it's a landscaping code violation. And it's interesting that you had said about the sign, your signage, because, and I know that building, because I've gone over there for
Okay.
different services. The physical therapist I know, and
Yeah,
NAMI I
yeah.
know, and
You
these
know
kind of
everybody,
things. Yeah,
yeah.
I know the building. So one of the things that I was gonna say, and don't take this the wrong way,
Sure.
but when you say a more inviting environment, I think it's like beside the code violation stuff, I think the biggest issue, because I know the first time I tried to go find NAMI, because I was
There's no sign,
volunteering.
the sign
you
is
can't
is
find
hidden,
anything.
yeah.
And even your tailor business, I looked up Aphrodite, I thought, oh, is that a sex shop? Kidding. But, no, but I think it's like one of the biggest issues is like foot traffic, you would never know
Yeah,
anything
and
there.
I already called everybody and tried to figure it out how to
Yeah.
fix that sign, and it's gonna take a lot of money, and we will have to completely
Right.
redo the
I mean,
sign.
that's gonna be the biggest thing, to get more foot traffic, to have to have people know, to get.
Well,
I think that would go a long way.
Depends, like from the people, in my experience, because this is not the first location I've been. The new crowds from 40 and under will Google me or Google the business, and they get there through the phone. The older crowds, they need obviously a sign.
When I Googled you too, it comes up on like Dixie Highway.
Yes, I
But
used
then
to
I actually
be.
recognized your voice
I
because
used
I
to
called.
be. I used to be in Dixie Highway. I
Okay.
used to be in the city of West Palm Beach for
Mhm.
13, 14 years. Yes.
I think, yeah, it's one of the social media apps, like, still has the wrong address. But
Mhm.
anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Public, yeah, Mayor?
Hi.
Hey.
I'm Betty Resch, 207 South L Street. A couple notes. Number one, your question about the land, the grandfathering, if it's allowed to degrade beyond,
Okay.
that's when they step in.
Got it,
So
thank you.
It's not that they, yeah. It's unusual that they're gonna give you the money with a code enforcement.
I know.
Okay, so you
I agree.
understand that.
Yeah, I
Now,
understand
here's
that.
my advice to you.
Sure.
If you have a general magistrate hearing at the end of February,
Okay.
is that what you said?
No. We want to. Oh yes, yes.
To go to the-
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So-
Some time in February. I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure when.
This is just hints of advice to
Okay.
you from many years of doing this.
Okay.
First thing, and you're working with David Root,
Yes.
talk to your code enforcement
I
officer
already did.
and say, can I have an extension time?
Okay.
Okay?
I will.
If you're working, they will give you that.
Okay.
Number two, because you talked about the fees and stuff,
Yeah.
once you go, the reason I say that is because once you go to the special magistrate,
Okay.
you will be assessed those fines.
Okay.
Now, even if you're comply a day later, once you walk into that building,
Mhm.
you will be assessed those fines. So your best interest is to get into compliance before you go to the general magistrate, because that'll save you a few $100.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I'm a little skeptical when, you say you're gonna help people fix their code problems. But, well, normally they don't give you money unless, if
Oh,
you,
yes,
yeah, that's,
yes, yes,
you should
But
be.
I've been like, I'm full disclosure, I'm like.
No,
yes,
well,
yeah.
it's, okay,
Mhm.
but I just wanna let you know that those
Thank
two
you.
things
I
to
appreciate
save you a
it.
little bit,
Okay,
that's all.
appreciate that, I'll do it.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right.
Any other public? Seeing none, we need an amendment to the motion. We can.
Yeah, I would ask Commissioner Kerner could include in her motion the fact that prior to obtaining any reimbursement funds, the applicant will provide the CRA with written proof from the city that the property is in compliance. And two, that the grant agreement will provide that so long as the property remains in compliance for a 2-year period, the lien will be released.
Feel free to say, I will amend as suggested by Board Attorney David Tulsis.
I have some concerns about giving funding to the violation if that's written into the grant requirements. I don't know how everyone else feels about that. I just feel hesitant.
I agree too.
I share that concern. I mean, I agree. I mean, it's not easy to get a code violation in Lake Worth. I know that's no dig on our code department, but I said it's not that easy to get a code violation. in Lake Worth. And that's not a dig on the code department, but when you've gotten to that point, that means that it's been that way for a long time. The code enforcer may have only picked up on it in October, November, but it's been out of compliance for a long period of time. In my experience, I'm saying that in a generic sense, general sense. So I share your same.
I would tend to disagree. I have direct experience with the opposite.
What do you mean?
Well, the code, having a code violation on something that, just sort of comes up and then suddenly you're in violation. It's not like it's for years, sitting around for years. So I think it's difficult to say that it's a general comment that, it's only when it's gotten so egregious that you get a code violation. I think you get a code violation when the code officer happens to catch it or find something, and it's very difficult sometimes to comply, to find the funds, to find in this tight labor market, to find somebody to actually do the work, get the estimates, and get them in there and schedule them in there. And in the meantime, time is running out. So it's very difficult for we're trying to run a great little city, and we make it difficult for business owners. As you can see, she's a very responsible business owner, and she's here tonight trying to clear it up. And I would advocate that we try to help her and grant her the money, and then it's up to her to follow through the paperwork and actually get it done. And that would be my input.
Sorry, one thing. We amended the motion, but I need the second to approve the amendment.
I second the amendment.
Now we can continue the conversation. Thank you.
I feel as though the the applicant is coming to us, because of the fines that are being placed on her, because she's in trouble with the city now, not at actively managing her business to keep it up, to the best standards, or reinvesting into it. She's coming into it already having issues, and I think that's why we have that rule in place for the facade grant, that we want the best intentioned business owners to be applying for this and to be actively maintaining their businesses. People go into business knowing the risks and reaping the rewards of that risk, and I don't feel comfortable approving this facade grant.
I will say, in a general sense, formerly on the board and presently on the board, these grants are something that I always walked away from these meetings feeling good about. And I can't say I feel great about this particular application. And that's because, this is something that should have been addressed before it became a code problem, not because it became a code problem. And so I also feel that is a big problem.
There are elements of the application that I'm not sure what the violation says specifically, but for instance, the new painting for the building, I wouldn't have a problem approving something like that that's not related directly to a code enforcement violation. But the actual, I guess we would need to know more about the language in the violation if we went that route, but something that's out of compliance, I don't know that I would feel comfortable approving it for.
So, okay, I think what we'll do is we have a motion and a second. Do you have a final comment before we vote?
Just a final comment. Most of us I bought in 2019. So when I bought the unit, it had already the landscaping that you have. We've been the building is being upgrading, new owners and all that. So when you come up to the building, it was already the way it was. So as a new owner, I've been there only 3 years. I've been trying to get this done since I moved in, But, we have an HOA, we had some other stuff going on, we had a leak in the roof, so we're working and all that little by little. It's not like we sat there for 30 years. I've been there only 3. The other people, the one lady just got there last year. So we haven't been sitting, waiting or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Sorry,
Oh.
can we clarify what so the motion is to approve and a second to
Staff
approve?
recommendation.
Yeah, the motion is to approve the grant for $11,079.08, to waive the requirement that the applicant must not have any outstanding code violations, to condition any reimbursement on providing written proof from the city that the property is in compliance with code violations, and that the lien agreement will provide that it will be forgivable after 2 years if there are no code violations occurring during that period of time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All those in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Is that-
Do we have a
So
vote?
motion fails 1 to 4.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. On to action agenda item B, 109 South D Street, purchase of privately owned property for affordable housing. Joan, are you gonna handle?
Yes, that
Okay,
would be,
thank you.
Continuing on with our program of buying both single-family and multifamily to provide affordable housing. One particular property, 109 South D, came to our attention. This particular property is in a single-family neighborhood. The purchase price, I apologize, is $99,000. And it is a vacant lot, so we would be building a single family for sale and probably working with either Habitat or the Community Land Trust on this particular one. So I'm asking the board to please approve the purchase of 109 South D and authorize staff to take funding from our capital projects account.
Can I have a motion and a second? And then we'll move to any discussion.
Motion to approve purchase of 109 South D.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions for staff or comments regarding this particular purchase? Just again, to reiterate that this market is exceptional, and, you know, sometimes it comes down to moving swiftly, so you'll notice that, you'll see that we've signed this already, so this is sort of a ratification of that effort. Just to bring that to everybody's attention, but
But if you'll notice, it has been signed, but specifically under the additional terms, line 347, it does require approval by the CRA board.
subject to, thank you. Yep, thank you. So, doesn't seem to be getting any easier buying these properties, but I still think it's a worthy effort, so. Is there any?
I had a question for staff. How long has that lot been up for sale, do you know?
Not that long.
Not that long.
Exactly.
They just had a sign put on just before Christmas, between Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. Only because I live in Rexbot, or I go down there all the time, and I'm like, oh, he's finally gonna sell it.
We need you to come to every CRA meeting.
It's my research people.
Yeah. Oh, man, thank you.
Would you say, like, in your opinion, like that specific spot is pretty attractive, right? Because it's flanked by some new construction, if I believe, on the left and on the right side?
Yeah, he originally wanted it 135, and he told us basically to pound sand when we first made the offer, and then came back around when he couldn't sell it for that much.
But do you think, you know, what I'm trying to get at is, I think the CRA is interested in providing all types of housing, right?
Sure.
And right now we keep bringing up the fact that it's a hot market, right? And I feel as though, you know, that we've been working to make Lake Worth Beach a very attractive place to move and to do business in, right? And so I think we're doing unnecessary competition with somebody who might come in and want to buy that lot themselves, make their nice little paradise here in Lake Worth Beach. And that's a great addition to the city, where we can focus our attention and our funds to multifamily. That's what I believe. I think we're doing like unnecessary competition right now in this market for single family homes. And I don't think we are really working towards affordable housing in this way. I don't think we're making significant steps in this way.
Well, if the board would like to change the strategy, we certainly can.
think, in my opinion, I think it's sort of a parallel track. We can stay focused, we can kind of focus on both because of the fact that it's such a challenging market. We sort of have to grab what we can. I hear what you're saying, that we can be more effective, of course, if we had 4 units to help people that are looking for something affordable. That would be ideal, but it's in a lot of ways, the history of Lake Worth constrains us because the lots are so small. It's very hard to assemble. You know, it's hard enough to get 1, and then to try and get 2 or 3 to make it worthy of doing a multifamily is tough, you know?
No,
But I hear what
absolutely.
you're saying, and I don't at all disagree. It's just, yeah, difficult.
Chairman, I just wanted to say that, you know, kind of like, okay, well, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative would be great if we had somebody who went in there and bought it and lived in it and you know, for 20 years. But the reality is, more than usual, is that somebody goes in there, they buy it, it's a company who rents it out, and it looks terrible in a few years, and people are constantly coming and going. So providing more housing in these particular neighborhoods where there's a lot of transient people, and providing affordable housing that's going to be income restricted for the next 20 to 30 or in perpetuity, I think is exactly what we should be doing.
That is our competition, actually. The guys that are driving around, grabbing these properties, most of the time they have a structure on them. They put a little lipstick on it, and it looks great, but it's all kind of, this is not fair to say, but a lot of times it's kind of garbage construction, and they just want to make it good enough to get a nice return on what they purchased it for, and that's kind of unfortunately, our competition, I feel like. So we're going to go to public 1 second. So, any other comments on this one? Public.
Yeah, I believe the
Name-
CRA. Anna Maria Windish Hunt, 404 South C Street. There is a property on D Street on 400 block. You have a Habitat house there, and next to it, I recall, there was a 2-story property that you all took over. It's an empty lot, and it's 50 feet wide, and I haven't seen anything or heard anything about that. But also next door to me on C Street, there is a double lot. And I did talk to the new owner because I thought, well, this is a wonderful place to put houses for people that need it. And because it is so wide, I thought, well, if you don't build straight out like just 2 buildings, that makes it 25 and small, you could actually put 3 on there and accommodate parking at the same time, not impacting the neighborhood. Because right now, one of my neighbors has 7 work trucks every day. And Sarah told me that it was illegal, but it's there, and code doesn't get up before 8 o'clock. But I'm concerned about these properties because they're available. And I don't know why the city isn't moving on those. And I believe it belongs to the CRA, the one on D Street. That's it.
I have a neighbor that has 4 work trucks, and I was told that there are under a certain size, it's legal for them to park it in their driveway and run their business. This is an air conditioning repair business running out of their home. So I have similar.
And I don't know if it's the property, but there's a property at 417 South D. It's actually owned by the county. It has over $300,000 worth of fines on it, and we're slowly trying to work with them to get them to give it to us. They will only give it to us if we give it to a nonprofit, which of course we would do anyway. But it's just a matter of trying to get through the bureaucracy of both the county and the city to try to purchase that particular one. It is
More
a
the
50-foot
county than
lot.
the city, of course.
Of course.
The one next door to me had a $400,000 lien on it, and it was purchased. Someone made it go away.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 1.
4 to 1.
4-1. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
We are On to the residential paint program, item C, action agenda. Chris?
Okay. Residential paint program, which the board discussed at the last meeting in December. I think most of the board was in favor of this. This is a pilot program that we want to kind of start in the rural Point Siena and Tropical Ridge neighborhoods, basically our NSP target area. Right now, again, this would be almost just a pilot program, see how it works out. Only a handful of properties would be eligible to apply for this $5,000 grant, in which applicants would apply directly to us, use one of our pre-selected painting contractors, which we have not pre-selected yet, fill out the application that's included in your packet, and submit it back to us and for us to review, and then go from there. Again, only properties located adjacent to recently built NSP or consortium properties would be eligible for this year. And depending on how the project goes, we could expand it, I assume, for, depending on the board's direction, next year for additional properties. So we try to keep the application as simple as possible for homeowners, owner-occupied homeowners or properties to fill out and return to us. And if this program gets approved by the board, we will kind of reach out directly to these homeowners adjacent to NSP properties to apply for this program if they so choose. So this is really just to approve the program, unless the board wants to make any final changes to it.
Thank you, Chris. Look for a motion and a second, then we can have further discussion.
Motion to approve the residential paint program.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are there questions or comments from the board for staff?
I just had one question on this. It all looks really good, and we discussed it at the last meeting, but just was wondering, under other requirements, where it says some applicants may be required to obtain approval from the city of Lake Worth Beach prior to beginning work. What does that consist of? Could you just go over that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just check with code. If they have any major outstanding liens, fines, whatever, if repairs need to be made to the property prior to painting of the house. No point in painting a house that requires some sort of structural or facade type changes first.
Okay, thanks.
Are there other comments or questions for Chris?
This seems like pretty narrow and specific. One of the things that they have to do is they have to need a paint job, right? They just, if the house looks fine, they're not going to be eligible for this program, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we'll review it. Anyone could apply. Anyone that's eligible can apply. We'll review it first. We'll run it through staff, and we'll make a decision on staff. But it'd be subjective based on the condition of the property.
And the willingness of the property owner to participate in the program.
Process involved. And again, these would be another restriction would be placed on these if they go through it. So they have to know in advance about that restriction, not to. I think we put a 2-year restriction here also.
Yeah.
So.
Chris, remind me, what is the, I can't remember what it was, the size of the bucket of money available?
30,000.
30. So we're really talking about.
We're talking about 6 houses, yeah. Very specific to, they have to be next to one of the projects, right?
Yeah.
And they need to have a need for paint and stuff like that. And a question: where's this money coming from specifically in our funding?
Line item?
From our budget?
Gosh, which line item is it? It's neighborhood programs, I think it is.
Oh, right, that's probably right, yeah. Neighborhood program. That's where it was from, many years ago.
And under this, one of the restrictions is they have to be a property owner. They have to be the single owner of a single family home, correct? Is that, is it possible that, a multifamily unit could get this type of support or this financing? Are we restricted in that it can only go to a single family homeowner?
I believe we talked about this last time. That is a current requirement, but that requirement can be changed.
By the board, right? Thank you.
Just to clarify that particular question, are we talking about like a situation where it's maybe a duplex with an owner of each side of the?
Yeah, it's to me, and I know this is it's complicated, right? Because I think you brought up the fact that you don't want to be just like we discussed with this previous applicant in their business, right? Like you don't want to be giving taxpayer dollars to somebody who's making a profit off renting these units, right? But our goal as to relieve the city of blight, right, and to improve our neighborhoods, I think we need to find a way to work with these landlords to improve the appearance of their units, and the residents. I think the residents of those units would really appreciate it. I know it's not the norm, and it probably hasn't been done before, but I think we would get a lot more bang for our buck if we went after if we started thinking about it. I'm not going to tell you I have the answer to it, but if we started to discuss how we could potentially reach agreements with landlords, right, where it's in the best interest of not only the CRA and the citizens of Lake Worth Beach, the residents and the owners, I think we could come to some agreement and see some real change in some of these neighborhoods, because you're looking at the single family homes being built next to our projects. I don't know how many of them are looking bad, like they really need a paint job. I don't know if we're gonna really see that impact we want from those $30,000. I feel like we can make $30,000 go a lot further. But yeah, those are my thoughts and my concerns.
Can I make a comment too about that? I think I see your point, Daniel, but I think there's a certain amount that should be said for incremental changes. Certainly, living in New York City, we had, dare I say it, Rudy Giuliani and his, his initiatives that went forward to change the quality of life, and one of the things was broken windows. And it was amazing, just from this evidence-based that, you fix the broken window and suddenly property values, people feel safe there. And I know it's $30,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it actually represents, if it represents, I remember when we redid our roads here, for God's sake. Do you remember the roads? They were terrible, and I think people really, really just, it changed the perception of my friends who were coming to see me from Palm Beach. They'd come down here and they'd be scared, and suddenly we had beautiful roads, and everybody, feels safer, and it's really just kind of a perception thing. I think, so I understand what you're saying. It's money, that maybe is solid money that could go somewhere else that's a little bit more,
It's the same. I'm just saying, you want to pave a road that isn't so shoddy. I live on J and Second, so I know what you're talking about with all the potholes and the but you're talking about that with that metaphor, like roads where everybody uses it, as opposed to where we're applying to just single family homes, very specific, very narrow, with people who might have the means to fix their home up. I'm talking about that in our city, right? It's very obvious that we have a lot of slum-like conditions in the city that are not going to be addressed by investing in single-family homes in the way we're doing it, right? And so what I would like to propose is that we start to really think about it. I'm not saying that there's a specific program or steps towards addressing that, but I'm saying if we don't start to ask those questions, right? And if we spend all the money that we have, you know what I mean? By the time we come up with a plan or an idea or something comes up, we might find ourselves in that situation where we don't have the money to fund it. You know what I mean? So that's.
Maybe we should talk about this further at the end when we have board comments, and then maybe we could do a workshop or something, because I really see your point, but I also think there's value to this paint program. So anyway.
The challenge is the amount of money available is this, and the amount of need is that. So it's like, I think we show preference to home ownership because if somebody has a investment property, they're choosing to put money in their pocket as opposed to painting the tenant's house, and that's unfortunate, but that's where code can step up and say, so I understand what you're saying. It's just, if we don't if we start enabling them, it's gonna possibly get worse before it gets better.
It's like everything, there's a good side and there's a bad side to it. One of those things that code is there to protect residents, is something that is true. That's why the code is established the way it is, you know what I mean? Why you can't have certain things inside your home with a certain amount of people and stuff like that. But I would really ask the board to really think about, how has code really delivered in the city, and could we not set just like an example of what certain type of funding and a certain type of approach could possibly do as a model? I mean, I'm not saying we're going to solve the blight issues in multifamily units with $30,000. Absolutely not. But I'm saying that we could target a specific area of great need. We could put money into it. We could bring partners into it, do a real type of outreach program, and demonstrate how far certain funds can go to changing a neighborhood. That's what I want to get at, and see if we can, later down the road, just start talking about that and seeing if we can brainstorm something.
I agree with you. In this neighborhood,
Excuse
there are
me,
35
excuse me,
homes.
Miss, we can't take minutes if people are just calling out from the audience. I apologize.
Can we, I agree, maybe we could talk about that either as an agenda item at another meeting or at the end of the meeting, but I do see value in this specific one.
Yeah.
Moving
Okay,
forward,
so
talk about it more.
Let's have a vote.
let's have public comment, and then we'll, if you'd please state your, please, name and address.
404 South C Street. I do,
Name, please.
What's your name?
Anna Maria Windish, and I do agree with Mr. Morgan here, because in my neighborhood, I've done the research, we have about 35 homesteaded houses. Most of those are in good shape. I myself probably could not afford to have it painted now, but I was lucky. I had Paint Your Heart Out do it for me. But the houses that look like, pardon the word, S-H-I-T, are the rentals. Not only do the landlords make money, but they don't care, and so the people that live there also are disadvantaged. They're at work all the time. I know my neighborhood. I know where the families are. I know where the kids are, and I know that we've got kids not going to school because the parents work all night and they sleep when they're supposed to be taking them to school. So that's the problem we have, is that it's the landlords and the LLCs. And yes, I don't know how you're going to approach them, but there's got to be a way. And I do appreciate you adopting this, because I know there are paint companies that would like to take a whole quadrant of a neighborhood and redo it. Thank you.
Okay, any others, Mayor?
Betty Resch, 207 South L Street. I'm a landlord, and there's not much of a profit in that, except now with what I've watched, what we've all watched over the past couple of years, the rents, a one-bedroom apartment going for $1,500, let them paint their own buildings. The only suggestion that I would have as a possible compromise would be a duplex that's owner-occupied on one half. They live in the building, but they get a little, they get a little help from the rental, because they are still living there, and it's not like 4 units that they're gonna get. So that would be a possible compromise that I would say, but, when I watch, and, we're all very aware of the terrible problems right now people have with renting and affording to find an apartment. I'm not as sympathetic to the landlords at this point, that it is a decision that you make, and people are raising, I haven't raised my rents, but people, one month it's $900, the next month it's $1,600 for a one-bedroom apartment. So I have less sympathy for the landlords, but I think maybe the duplex would be a possible compromise, that's all.
Thank you. Okay, motion and second, all in favor, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey, oh, sorry.
4-1?
Yes.
4-1.
All right, thank you. We have a discussion item in terms of where we should host these meetings going forward. Joan, do you have an overview for this particular discussion?
Well, I'm gonna speak for Betty and say that,
There's
the
no
mayor-
stairs here, Mary.
The mayor and certain commissioners have asked that we move back to City Hall, to be, I think, more transparent and to be in a place where people know that the meeting is going to happen. We've looked into, how that would happen, and, it's certainly a possibility for us to do it. Staff has gone over and done some training, I believe, with the city clerk and IT. We're not all up to speed quite yet on what needs to be done. But it'll be a little bit of a learning experience, but, it's completely up to the board where you would like to be. So we just put it on the agenda because there was, 1 or 2 commissioners who expressed to me that they would rather stay here, so it's up for discussion.
I have a
Thank you. Thank you,
question.
Joan.
Chairman?
Yep.
Can I
Yep.
just ask a question about the, so City Hall, I've had some, it's all COVID possibly, but tried to go to a meeting, and once the meeting starts, they lock the door. And it's very difficult to get in. The only way I could get in is to call somebody I know who's already at the meeting to come let me in. And I know that there's some, concerns about safety and whatever, but I found that to be really disturbing, that we had a open meeting, city council meeting, and the public couldn't walk in. So I don't know how that's been resolved, if it has been resolved. It has been resolved.
Well, our conversations have been with the city that they would leave the building open. I guess at some point they lock automatically. And that was honestly a concern for us because here we watch people walk in and we watch them walk back out. But, we're not going to go through the building and make sure that it's empty when we leave. But that doesn't seem to be a concern for the city. So the doors are supposed to be unlocked.
Yeah, and I like the fact that these are open, people can kind of come and go. It feels a little more transparent.
I have a thought on the, when I was on the CRA previously, we did meet in the city commission, and so I've had this unique perspective of meeting there and meeting here, and I really can't say that I feel it was less transparent, less accessible. I also feel like meeting here brings a little bit of night life to this particular area, but I'm not passionate enough to die on this hill, but
Good.
But I do like the fact that our staff can easily come right in here for this meeting, and they don't have to go over in advance and maybe forget something.
The 4 blocks.
I like it here as well because it brings attention to what's going on in Hatch and the art exhibits and that's just.
I think the mayor wants to say something.
Yeah,
I'm surprised there's a discussion, frankly, and I expressed that to Joan earlier today. One of the things when I was elected, I have had so many complaints. The sound, you cannot, when you watch this, you cannot hear what you're saying. You speak softly. Number one, the lock on the door was a problem, and I've yelled and screamed in the elevator. I mean, that's something that we're aware of and that we're dealing with. I feel very strongly that this board, like any other, it's a different board because you're more independent, but I feel very strongly that that's the central place where boards meet. The sound is better. Like tonight, when you're putting those numbers up, I couldn't see it, but if you're in the city commission chambers, there's 4 TVs that you can watch. People are used to watching, the meetings at the city hall. The sound is better. I mean, when we have planning and zoning or historical board, William Waters and his staff comes from 2nd Avenue North. So I mean, it's really, I'm sorry if it's inconvenient, but I feel very strongly that, and this is something that frankly I feel like I want to just say that this is something that needs to happen because we've had so many. What?
I'd be in favor of it.
I can hear you.
I'd be in favor of it.
Yeah, it's where meetings are held, and it's really hard to, I come to these meetings, and I could barely hear a lot of what was said tonight. I sort of trust that you're saying smart things and good things, but I'm an optimist. What can I tell
incredibly
you?
intelligent.
It's a very intelligent. I just feel really strongly, and I've gotten over the past now almost 2 years, which is amazing. a lot of comments about why the CRA doesn't meet at City Hall. We cannot hear what you're saying. And when you look back at a YouTube video, you just can't hear what you're talking about. That combined with the fact that I guess the ADA compliance on your, I see an agenda, but there's no backup. Where this, which is, I came to the meeting tonight knowing that these things were being discussed, but with no background. I couldn't look at anything. And I think, is that still an ADA? You don't have the backup on your, you have the agenda, but like the city has the backup.
So do we.
I couldn't find it.
You have a link.
Well, all right, I mean, I looked at, it was agenda, but I didn't see any, like, backup to it. Now, maybe show me, if I'm wrong, that's great, I'm glad. But I feel very strongly.
Just
that-
making sure.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying yes, and I'm like, wait a minute.
So,
Like, the backup, like all your papers that you have. Like, when you look at the city commission, here's the agenda, and here's the backup, and you've got the entire, whatever we get.
It's there.
You
Yeah.
get. And I was not able to find it on the CRA. Maybe I'm just not good at looking. But back to the meetings, I feel very strongly that it should be at the City Hall. Number one, I'm sitting here and the trains are going by and the trucks are going by. You don't have that kind of background noise at the city, it's in City Hall. It's a little more, it's quieter. It's quieter. And I just feel really strongly about that. I don't want to butt heads
So-
with anybody, but I feel really strong that it needs to
so
be.
this is a discussion item, so we're not taking action on this per se, and I hear everything you're saying, but it was put on as a discussion, so we don't take comment from public on discussion. I mean, we appreciate, of course, you, but I'm just saying we don't generally take, unless the board feels differently, we don't take comment from public on
I
non-agenda.
mean, my question is, who has the authority to place where the board meets? I mean, that's
I think
the board.
the
Yeah,
mayor brings up
board.
a good point about how the public can actually access the information. And if they can't hear and they can't see, then that's a big enough issue. Is this some of the things that the public is concerned about? I know,
That's what
I've been
that's
on the
the
other
feedback
side as
I've
well,
gotten.
and I literally, it seemed so, and it's created a bit of a lack of transparency, not by,
No maliciousness, it's
no
just, you
maliciousness,
just can't hear what
it's
you're
just the
saying.
w-
Just-
we're here, and we wouldn't know that, but I've been on the other side, and I understand.
Excuse me.
Anna, you can't do that.
They used to be there.
They know that.
I was on the board when they were there, and spoiler alert, you're not gonna see a bigger audience than what
No.
we see here.
No.
In fact, a lot of times it was less.
But at least people will hear
It
it,
was
and
the
they watch it on
McNamara's.
YouTube, it'll be, I'm sorry? What did you say?
It was the McNamara's, that's it, that's
They-
who came
Well, that's a number of years ago, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say,
Yeah.
listen, it's nice, I said the other night at his commission meeting, a lot of people were there, AstroTurf is my new nightmare. But it's consumed my life right now. But there were a lot of people there, and I said, I know you're here to yell at us, but it's nice to have people in the audience, it's just, I'll take it. But this is something I feel, really, and I hope that, I don't want to, again, I try to work with everybody, but this is something I feel, and a lot of the people, I have obviously not talked to other commissioners about it,
Yeah.
but it's nothing that we're gonna vote on.
Yeah.
But for continuity, for transparency, I just feel like you're kind of doing a disservice to the folks by staying here.
Okay.
It might be comfortable to come here, but
It
I can
is-
barely hear what you're saying while I'm sitting there.
I hear you, thank you. And it is absolutely a board decision on whether we locate here or there, but as I said, I'm not passionate enough to, die on this hill. So
Well-
if we all agree that over there is our new home, great, we'll go over there.
Okay, I will talk about I
Can we get a consensus from the board?
On a decision or like on the willingness to discuss? Are we discussing now?
You're discussing now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's not an action item, we're not motioning and seconding and voting, but we're basically discussing the pros and cons and the looking for consensus on whether we all agree that that will be our new location.
And if I could start?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I would say, the pros, because I've actually heard it from some of the citizenry who are in this room. I've heard the same comments over and over that people can't hear. Thanks very much. That people can't hear, and that they would like to be able to hear more, and that when we're speaking, it's really low, and then they can't see the projections, and so I've heard a lot of these arguments, and I would have to say I would agree with it. I mean, on the flip side, this is a great space, and it's almost like I only get here when there are openings or when there are shows, and so in some ways, being here kind of like reinforces the work that the CRA does, and it's great to come to the Hatch. I mean, I would love it if we could have like our Kate and Eda too, that we had a better, AV situation, and that we could actually, people could actually hear us, because that's the real impediment. It's not so much the space. I mean, I understand the door issue too, as the mayor mentioned, and sometimes though too, I mean, I'm chair of the tree board, so I go over there and I'm kind of like knocking until somebody comes, which is a little weird, but that's the flip side of being over there, Mayor.
I'm working on that one quite strongly, I might say.
We have so many things we're working on in this beautiful city. However, I think that's sort of like, I don't know, I'm not trying to be Solomonic, because then I would have to probably like split the baby, but,
The other issue that we had, and it wasn't frequent, but the other issue we had is now and then there'd be a scheduling issue, and we would have a meeting in that little conference room behind the day.
Let that happen, simple.
So, okay. I mean, it's, like I said, I'm just bringing up all the points to consider. But that definitely happened the last time we met. There was obviously preference for the city meetings, the commission meetings, and we had to then meet in that little room.
But the whole point, one of the points that.
It's a lot of exercise.
One of the points that,
Just do it anyway. One of the points that I'm making is the fact that, what was it? I lost my train of thought. You would be the CRA, that would be, you would be the primary. We would just have to avoid those kinds of things. If we want to have a workshop on the second Tuesday of the month, we would just not be able to do that.
Right.
that
We would have
be.
to then, like, if we ever needed to move our meeting, which happens once or twice at most in a fiscal period,
Yeah, we can move.
we would need to consider that calendar too, but that's not a big deal. It's not a reason to stay here. It's just all these points are relevant. My number one point for staying here, and again, I'm not saying that we won't go, I'm just saying my number one point is that I love that we bring life and energy to this space and this area of the city at night.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're overstating what life you're bringing to it once a month for 4 people, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the board and half a dozen people, so it's not really that much. And I really have to, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm asking this question in public, but I really don't know that it's the board's decision about where you're gonna meet. I think it's the city, your city board. Glad for the input.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the operation of the city, it's bigger than just what 4 or 5 people think, okay?
Right.
There's no, the boards have no choice, other boards have no choice, you're a city board. If there's, we'll work on the scheduling conflicts, we just have to make it work, because it's important.
May I ask the mayor a question?
Sure.
Mayor, are you gonna take down the plexiglass? Because
We'd have to, yeah.
Okay, because that's really annoying, like, and it's like.
Actually,
kind of
it's pretty comforting.
Is it? Because you can't throw things at each other
Well,
now. It's like, but, because I just think that.
Well,
sort
in
of
order to
inhibits-
do it, you've got 7 people, we have 5, so we would take
Right.
down the plastic, which will be, it's like our little security cozy things, but
Yeah.
we'll get used to it, to fit all 7 people up on the board, up on the dais.
We did.
There's 6
We
people
did.
up there now.
It was tight, but it was definitely doable. Not at all a problem.
Yeah,
we
when I was city attorney, we'd have this, when I was city attorney, there would be 5, a mayor and 4 commissioners, city attorney and city manager up on that
Right.
dais, so
same.
it can work.
All right, so that space then.
Yeah, no, the plexiglass is gonna have to come down.
All right.
Chris is gonna be nervous. And he knows we kid about it. I kid with him. So.
I for one think it's a great idea, because I think we feel, I think being on the other side for so long, being part of the public, and the CRA always seemed like a secret thing.
Exactly.
It was difficult to hear, and it was sort of like you didn't feel welcome whether you were or not, and I think we have to work very hard to break down those prior misconceptions, and I think you should embrace it, that we're gonna join the family and be back in the city hall and kind of be, all part of the thing.
And I have raised a little bit of heck about the doors, actually, and the elevator. I use the elevator, and for a year, I had to like call somebody up, you know, and now they put a thing where if
It's
I
like
have
a
my
secret-
bag,
what's
it
the
should be open.
secret
A
club?
lady called me, she was in a wheelchair, she couldn't get to the meeting, it made me crazy. Okay, so I'm real with you on that one. I have mixed feelings about the fact that the city hall is still locked, but these
Right,
days.
so consensus?
I just want to say that I agree with what you said, and I think it'll go a long way towards making some people who had those feelings about the CRA feel as though it's more accessible, more transparent, really a part of the city. And so I think I agree with the proposal of moving back to the commission.
Okay. Do you have a?
My preference is here, but I don't feel that strongly about it, so I'll go with whatever everyone else.
It's
Sounds
more
like-
for the overall good of the city, not.
Sounds like we're moving.
Good.
All right.
See you next month at City Hall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
You
Mary.
get less interruptions from me.
That in itself.
That's the reason.
Exactly. Because you're up there and I respect you. This is so casual.
Executive Director's report, please.
We
You
have
skip-
CRA, sorry, we have the attorney's report first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
David Tulsa's board attorney. My first comment has primarily to do with the newer board members, because I didn't bring this up at the first meeting when you were sworn in. And under Florida statute, you're obligated to disclose property that you may own within the CRA. So if you're able to this evening, it's pursuant to 163.367 paren 2. It relates to your ethical obligations to ensure there's no conflicts of interest. So if you don't mind, especially for the new board members, if you could disclose on the record any properties that you own within the CRA. And that's you or any entities that you may be part ownership in.
Is that under board member comments or no?
Well, you can do it now or you can do it under board member comments, whatever you'd like to do.
Also in line with that, one of the things that I was never made aware of until I got it in the mail is the disclosure for the county that we also are obligated to complete. So just since we're talking about.
The financial disclosure
That
form.
won't come up for several months, but
Right.
it's worth.
Yeah,
pointing
you
out.
have, pursuant to the state of Florida Code of Ethics, you have a financial disclosure obligation. I think the newer board members probably did it because I think you had to do it within 90 days of your appointment. So that's separate and apart, and you may have very well included those properties on your financial disclosure statement. If you didn't, but I'll just see one head shaking no. But if you don't mind, if you want to do it under your comments, that's fine, but I just wanted to mention that item for this evening. The other item that I have to bring up is, and I know when I met with the newer board members, I don't think we discussed it, and I don't know if, Caroline, we ever discussed it either, but the bylaws, which you have a copy of in front of you this evening. The bylaws of the Lake Worth Beach CRA, we need to change the title, not the word beach, were adopted many years ago, but they govern the relationship of you and your fellow board members at meetings, how meetings operate, and I think it's important that you be aware of them. It also relates to your rights and obligations as a CRA board member in the community when you're going out and speaking, in dealing with CRA staff, in making sure that your actions that you take here at the board and outside in the public are consistent with the board's actions. So I just wanted to provide that to you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at another time, but I just wanted to make sure that you got that, because we have a lot of new board members, and there may be questions about how meetings operate, and this would give you your roadmap to understand better how CRA meetings operate. So I want to wish also everybody a very happy and healthy new year. It's good to see everyone, and I look forward to seeing everybody next month at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Oh, no.
Yep, you're up.
I have quite a few things to go over. I'll try to be quick. For our holiday storefront decoration contest, I'm happy to say we had 3 winners. First place went to Paws on the Avenue, second place went to Eclectic Boutique, and third place went to Victor's Produce over here on the west side. We will be distributing, those ridiculously large checks that you get with Vanilla Ice probably in the next few weeks, so you'll probably see those pictures on social media. Let's see, this Saturday we have the community exhibition. That's what you see here. It's the local-only show. We're opening the doors at 6 o'clock on Saturday. We'd love to see you here. On Tuesday, July 17th, I will be doing a brief presentation to the City Commission over at City Hall at 6 p.m. And then January, did I say July? You're rubbing
Time
off on
travel.
me. Okay, back to January. January 23rd, we have a small business workshop here at the CRA office. We have Hazel Lucas from the Florida Rural Legal Services. There's actually a lot of things that, really great things that they do for the county. It'll be a very interesting workshop. Tuesday, January 24th, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council will be presenting the L&M plan. I forwarded that to you again today. I forwarded it, link to it, I believe, right before Christmas, but just in case you didn't see it, I sent that all to the board members today as well. That meeting, I have been corrected, will start at 5 a.m. and not 6 o'clock.
5
PM.
PM.
Yeah, that is PM. What? You don't want to all come here at 5 a.m.? It's been a long day. Okay, back to we have the mayor's State of the City address at the casino at 6 p.m. on January 26th. The CRA will have a table there, as will all of the other departments in the city. Hope to see you there. I know it'll be fantastic. We do have a new small business video. Staff went and interviewed all flowers. The interview itself is on our Facebook page. It's also on our YouTube page. If you go to the YouTube page, you'll see a whole bunch of other local businesses there as well. We're also working on traffic box wraps. We've had a few traffic boxes that were damaged or a lot of stickers put on it, so we're going back and trying to design those and make it a little bit a little prettier place to be. 1213 Lake Avenue is the building across the street, the two-story yellow building with the gecko on it. We've handed in permits, I think maybe in November. We're almost through all of the city comments. We're hoping to begin construction as soon as possible. And just as a reminder, that two-story building belongs to the Cultural Renaissance Foundation, and we have a grant along with some CRA money to do a youth mentoring center there that will house Excel mentoring and also Path to College. And finally, we've all been waiting, I think Cana is having their grand opening later sometime this month. I have a tentative date, but I don't have a certain date, but we are working with the owners, so we will contact you as soon as we have that all set. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thanks, John. We are on board member comments. Ann, will you kick us off?
Sure. I have a question. In our board package, we had some comments that were emails to Emily from the public. And it says, I'm hoping this can be read in the public comments. How do you handle those things? I know how we do it at City Hall for the City Commission, where there's public comments read into the agenda. Do you guys do that? Is that part of how you handle it? Because they're in our packet and there's public comments, but they.
Those are from last meeting in the minutes, is my understanding?
Were they read at the last meeting?
They were attached to the minutes.
Okay.
They're not typically read into the record. They're included with the agenda packet attached to the minutes.
Okay, so who sees these then? The public sees these? Just the
They're part of
board or?
minutes. No, they become part of the
They
minutes.
become part
and
of the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because don't we in City Council, don't you read the public comments when you are sent to them?
The first 10.
First 10. Okay, there are only 2 here, so. Anyway, this just is sort of, again, a way to bring the public into the process for the CRA to make sure that when we have public comments, people take the time that does get read into the record. So I think it's really important. You know, we're trying to bring everybody together. And if I were Carolyn or Amy, and my letter just went into the vapor, I might feel a little, disaffected. So I would hope that in the future, if you get if you get something that people want to be read into the record, that it gets read into the record in public. And if
They're
we're the-
attached to the minutes, so if anybody sees the minutes from the meeting, they don't disappear. They're there, they're produced as public records if anybody asks for records from the meeting, so they get them as well.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
That's not really my point.
We could, what we can do is consider something similar to what the city commission is doing in capping. The concern is consistency, so whatever we decide, we should do it consistently. And I think that if we capped the number that we'll read out loud, because now and then we have a contentious issue, and you'll get 300 comments or 200 comments, and none of us want to necessarily hear the same comment read over and over. So I think following the lead of the city commission makes sense.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. I think there's,
All of them are, when the clerk receives them, she does, you can read them ahead of time. You can actually go in, and it's not part of the minutes, it's part of the agenda.
Okay.
So if you wanna see what people have said before the meeting, you can go in and read those, but I think reading out is helpful. And I have an apology to make to you and to the staff. It was just pointed out to me by our neighbor, Ms. Fisher, that the agenda items are backed up on the website, so my apologies.
No problem.
Yep.
If you
well,
can't find them,
I'm
then
wrong.
that's an issue, but we are working on a
Yeah.
new website.
No, I
so.
appreciate that. And Peggy was like, they're right here, what are you talking about? I appreciate it.
All right. Donna?
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
go.
mean to interrupt,
Yeah,
but
please.
we're gonna do the,
Property?
thank you.
Yeah, property disclosure. That's what I was gonna say.
Oh.
Like,
we totally blew by that.
no, that's okay. And did you wanna,
I'm done.
did you wanna have property disclosure?
Oh, property
Yeah.
disclosure, yes. I'm not sure if I'm in the CRA district, because I looked at that map, and I'm really like on the edge. I'm at 226 South L Street, between 2nd and 3rd Avenue on L Street, south. I think I'm out. I think it stops at 2nd Avenue, right? Anyway, doesn't matter.
No, it does, yeah.
We
And
have to
then,
look.
No, it
yeah,
does.
and
I
then
think
I
it's
also
in,
have
but-
202 North Federal.
I think it's out, yeah.
The 202 North Federal, I'm not sure.
202
That's
North
in.
Federal is,
It's in or out?
yeah, in.
It's in.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So for me, Donna Kerner, I do own my house that I live in. It's at 1012 North J Street.
Did you want to touch
But
any
you can
public
make a
comments?
comment too, if you
Oh.
like.
No, I don't know that I have anything else to say other than, like, this is, lots that we went over, and I think, I hope we made good decisions. Sometimes I have that feeling too, it's like a little bit like a lot is on us, and I know that, one of the action agenda items was a little bit difficult for me, but we vote the way we think we should, and I always try to take, kind of like the larger picture into perspective, and at the same time, I think things are kind of complicated now with some of the ordinances and some of the zoning, and I wish that we could have like one brush with which we paint everything, and especially when it comes to zoning issues, I think and I would look at the mayor now. I think we have zoning and permitting, and I would like it that this is not so much for CRA, but it has come into the CRA world now, with like some of the zoning, the issues and infractions. We're having like code violation issues, and I think we just need to do a better job of describing why people are getting fined and code violations and infractions. It's like the person who came with her landscape, the 5 condo owners. It's a little bit difficult. It's hard to hear that they're having problems, and we are here to help business owners, and we are here to help the city and to clean up blight, but it's a little bit of a complicated story. Anyway, that's it. So yes, looking forward to the next month, looking forward to the Kana grand opening. I think that'll be a great addition, and I've been waiting for that. I know I posted on Facebook, I was like, any news about the Kana grand opening? Because I think we had first heard August 1st, so. Kana.
Kana?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, John,
No, I know. I think you had said, Mayor, that, you know, coming soon. They were in their final stages, so.
They were
yeah.
open today when I walked past.
Really? Awesome.
They were open today when I walked past.
Like serving food or?
Yeah. I think there were, I don't know, there were people in there mixing drinks in the bar and walking around. It looked like they were open. Yeah, maybe.
It looks beautiful.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be a great addition. That's it. Thank you.
Sad to say, not a property owner in the CRA district, but yeah, so I have no property to report yet. You know, I appreciate that staff presented the budget, like I think we talked about in December before we all went on vacation, or at least some of us. And so, you know, just with this new year, I really look forward to talking more with staff and getting to hear more ideas from my colleagues and seeing what other stuff we can come up with for this new year. And I'm really looking forward to it.
I don't know where the appropriate place to bring this up is, but I'm not sure how the decisions are made about what's budgeted for the box wraps and the banners and that sort of thing. But I just wanted to bring up that maybe in the future we could consider adding some bike racks to the downtown area. I don't know if that's been brought up before, but I think it could be useful.
We can't hear you. We don't know what you're saying.
These, unfortunately, these are only good for the internet.
Right. That's the problem, yeah.
I just mentioned, you know, we're doing the box wraps initiatives and the banners, and I think it'd be nice to have some additional bike racks. And I don't know if that falls in that same budget area or if that's something we could fund. I just wanted to bring it up for future discussion. I think
Bike
it would
racks.
be
Bike
important.
racks,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bike racks,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
we'll put it
That
on the
would
next
be-
agenda?
We'd have to coordinate, that would be coordinated.
Yeah, I don't know
With
what that
public
looks
services,
like.
sure, yeah.
But I think that it would be
Yeah.
beneficial in the CRA district.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done
You
it
know,
in
like the
past.
painting, maybe if different businesses asked for bike racks, we could have that as be part of an initiative.
And I do not have any properties in the CRA district.
Any other comment?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, I don't really have any other comment. I obviously agree with the motion on the action item, in terms of that, facade grant. And, you know, the code process, I found myself in an unfortunate situation having to go through a code issue many years ago as a small owner with another owner that was supposed to have taken care of things that didn't. And they're actually very fair and reasonable as long as you demonstrate that you are making the effort. You know, I think it's a slippery slope if we start, you know, funding people that have gotten themselves in trouble there. So I feel strongly about that. Thank you, everybody, for their time and comments and for doing a great job, and Happy New Year. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Assessing.
All in favor?